Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been going about your day completely normally, working, driving, scrolling on your phone, doing something ordinary, and then all of a sudden, a feeling shows up, not sadness, not exactly longing, just a feeling, a strange pull, like something isn't completely finished yet, like there's a conversation that never fully ended, like someone is somehow present in your energy, even though they're nowhere around you. If you've been experiencing that lately, there may be a reason, because the energy coming through this reading today is centered around someone who has been carrying thoughts of you far more often than they're willing to admit. This person is trying to continue life as usual. They're showing up to work, handling responsibilities, talking to people, smiling when they're supposed to smile, doing everything they normally do, but beneath all of that, you keep showing up, not because they're trying to think about you, not because they're sitting around dwelling on the past, but because something about you reached a place inside them that very few people ever have. And now they're beginning to realize that. Whatever this connection is, it isn't fading. Take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's see what the cards have to say. Card 1, Six of Cups. The first card coming through is the Six of Cups. And immediately, this card brings me into the energy of memories, not painful memories, not even nostalgic memories in the usual sense. These are memories that seem to find their own way back. The interesting thing is, this person isn't intentionally sitting down and thinking about you. You simply appear, a song comes on, they pass a familiar place, someone says something that reminds them of you, a certain scent drifts through the air. And suddenly, there you are, front and center in their mind, clear as day. I feel like they've tried to stay busy. They've thrown themselves into work, into routines, into responsibilities, into all the things people do when they're trying to keep moving forward. But every time life gets quiet, you return, and what confuses them is that they don't fully understand why, because they've met people before, they've cared about people before, but not everyone leaves this kind of imprint, not everyone stays. You did, and they're starting to notice that. There's something else here too. I'm being shown a specific memory, a moment between the two of you, and from the outside, it may have looked completely ordinary, a conversation, a laugh, a shared moment, an exchange that seemed small at the time, but somehow, that moment stayed with them. They've revisited it more than once, not because of what happened, but because of how it felt. And that's important, because people often forget details, but they remember feelings. They remember feeling seen, they remember feeling understood, they remember feeling comfortable enough to let their guard down. And when I look at this connection, that's exactly what I see. You became associated with a feeling that still lives inside them, and no matter how much time passes, they haven't completely stepped away from it. Card 2, the High Priestess. Alright, the energy is getting deeper now, because the next card is the High Priestess, and this card answers an important question. What is it about you that keeps pulling this person back? What is it that they can't seem to forget? And the answer isn't your appearance. It isn't surface-level attraction. It isn't anything obvious. It's your depth. There's something about you that feels layered. Every time they think they've figured you out, they discover there's more. And instead of pushing them away, that draws them in. I keep getting the sense that this person witnessed a version of you that was completely real. Maybe you don't even remember the moment, but they do. Perhaps it was something you said. Perhaps it was a moment when you were honest about how you felt. Perhaps it was a moment when you weren't trying to impress anyone, you were simply being yourself, and somehow, that moment mattered. Because they've encountered plenty of people who know how to perform, people who know how to present a polished version of themselves, but authenticity is different. Authenticity can't be manufactured, and they felt it in you. I need you to understand something. This person's curiosity about you goes far beyond attraction. They want to understand you. They want to know what inspires you, what hurts you, what excites you, what makes your eyes light up when you talk about it. They want to know the parts of you that most people never get to see, and that's usually what happens when someone begins connecting with another person's soul rather than simply their image. The High Priestess tells me that you awaken something deeper than interest. You awaken genuine curiosity, the kind that grows stronger over time, not weaker. Card 3, Ace of Cups. Alright, this is where the energy shifts, because the next card is the Ace of Cups, and I have to be honest, this card doesn't feel subtle at all. The Ace of Cups is the card of emotional awakening, it's the card of the heart opening. It's the card that appears when feelings begin to move beyond curiosity and into something much more meaningful. The strongest message I'm receiving here is simple: this person has changed since meeting you. They may not have admitted that yet, they may not even fully understand it themselves, but the energy is undeniable. Something inside them has opened, and you are connected to that change. I feel like this is someone who is usually careful with their emotions, someone who prefers control, someone who doesn't easily let people into their private world. They've learned how to protect themselves. They've learned how to keep certain walls in place, but then you came along, and little by little, those walls began to shift, not because you forced anything, not because you demanded anything, but because around you, they felt safe enough to feel. And that matters more than you know. The interesting thing about these feelings is that they aren't fading, they're growing. There are days when this person thinks they've finally figured out what they feel, and then the feeling deepens again. There are days when they try to focus on something else, and somehow you find your way back into their thoughts, again, and again, and again. What I'm seeing here doesn't feel temporary, it doesn't feel like a passing fascination. It feels sincere, steady, alive, like something that continues expanding rather than disappearing. And that's why this reading feels so powerful. Because this person isn't just remembering you anymore, they're not simply curious about you anymore, they're beginning to feel you with their heart, and once that happens, everything changes. But we're only seeing part of the story, because there are still things they haven't said, feelings they haven't expressed, thoughts they keep to themselves when the world goes quiet, and that's exactly where this reading takes us next. We'll uncover that in next cards. Card 4, the Moon. Alright, now we're moving deeper, because the next card coming through is the Moon, and honestly, this may be the most revealing card in the entire reading. The Moon doesn't deal with what people show the world, it deals with what they keep hidden, the thoughts that surface late at night, the emotions that are felt deeply but rarely spoken, the truths that exist beneath the surface. And when I connect with this energy, one thing becomes very clear: this person thinks about you far more than you realize, especially when they're alone, when the day is over, when the distractions fade, when the noise of the outside world finally settles. That's when your energy shows up. Not in a dramatic way, not in an overwhelming way, but in a quiet, persistent way, like a presence they've grown accustomed to carrying. I keep seeing them replaying moments, conversations, small interactions, tiny details that most people would probably forget, but somehow those details stayed with them. The way you laughed, something you said, a look you gave them, a moment when they felt closer to you than they expected. And what fascinates me here is that they aren't only looking backward, they're looking forward too. They're imagining conversations that haven't happened yet, things they wish they could tell you, questions they want to ask, experiences they would like to share with you. They're exploring possibilities in their mind, and that tells me something important. This connection is no longer living only in memory, it's beginning to live in their vision of the future. But here's the part one really want you to hear. There is something this person is holding back, a feeling, a truth, a confession, something they haven't fully allowed themselves to express, not because they don't feel enough, quite the opposite. Sometimes people stay silent because what they feel is too significant, too vulnerable, too real, and that's exactly what I'm seeing here. I feel like this is someone who learned a long time ago how to protect their heart. Maybe life taught them to be cautious. Maybe previous experiences left scars. Maybe they've spent years convincing themselves they don't need anyone, but what they're feeling for you is challenging those beliefs, and that's both beautiful and terrifying for them, because they're beginning to understand that you could become someone truly important, someone who matters, someone who has the power to affect their life in a meaningful way, and once a person realizes that, everything changes. Card 5, Two of Cups. Alright, this is where the energy starts becoming much more mutual, because the next card is the Two of Cups, and I have to say, this card feels incredibly significant in this position. The Two of Cups is often associated with connection. But not just any connection, this is recognition. It's the feeling of meeting someone and sensing that there's something different here, something familiar, something meaningful, something that can't easily be explained. When I look at this energy, I don't see someone who simply has a crush on you. I don't see someone who is merely attracted to you. I see someone who feels genuinely connected to you, and that distinction matters. Because attraction can come and go, connection tends to stay. What stands out most is the sense of comfort surrounding your energy. When they think about you, they don't just feel excitement, they feel peace, and peace is rare, very rare. You make them feel like they can relax, like they don't have to perform, like they don't have to carry every burden alone, like they can simply be themselves. And the more they sit with that realization, the more difficult it becomes to ignore what they're feeling. I also see something shifting inside them. Before, they were simply experiencing these emotions. Now they're beginning to acknowledge them. Before, they were wondering why you kept appearing in their thoughts. Now, they're asking themselves different questions. What do I want with this person? What role could they play in my future? What happens if I stop holding back? Those questions tell me the energy is moving. This isn't standing still anymore. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's evolving, slowly, naturally, but undeniably. And I can't ignore the feeling that this person is beginning to see real potential here, something worth investing in, something worth protecting, something worth showing up for. Card 6, The Lovers. Alright, we've reached the final card, and honestly, I can't imagine a more fitting way to end this reading. Because the last card is the Lovers. Now many people immediately associate this card with romance, but the deepest meaning of the Lovers isn't actually romance, it's choice, it's alignment, it's the moment someone stops running from what they feel and finally faces it honestly. And that's exactly what I see happening here. This person has spent a lot of time trying to understand their feelings, trying to analyze them, trying to explain them away, trying to convince themselves they're not as deep as they seem, but every path leads them back to the same conclusion: you matter, more than they expected, more than they planned for, more than they can comfortably ignore. And they're reaching a point where denying that truth is becoming increasingly difficult. What I love about this card is that it doesn't promise perfection. It doesn't promise that every obstacle disappears. It doesn't promise an effortless path. Instead, it shows two people standing before a doorway. A doorway that represents possibility, a doorway that represents choice, a doorway that asks one simple question: will you move toward each other? And that's the energy surrounding this connection right now: movement, recognition, honesty, a willingness to acknowledge what has been growing beneath the surface all along. Because the truth is, you changed something inside this person. You helped them reconnect with parts of themselves they thought were gone. You reminded them what emotional openness feels like. You reminded them what genuine connection feels like. And once someone experiences that, it's very difficult to return to something shallow. As we come to the end of this reading, I want you to remember something. This reading is not about certainty, it's not about forcing an outcome, it's not about attaching yourself to a prediction, it's about understanding the energy that's present right now. And the energy coming through today is very clear. There is someone carrying you in their heart, someone who has been changed by knowing you, by seeing you, by experiencing your presence. Someone who continues thinking about you even when they're trying not to. Someone whose feelings are growing stronger, not weaker, and whether they've spoken those feelings yet or not, the cards suggest that this story is still unfolding, the energy is moving, the pieces are shifting. And what has remained hidden may not stay hidden forever. Take what resonates, leave behind what doesn't, trust your intuition, trust your heart, and most importantly, never underestimate the impact you've had on someone else's life. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next reading.